We're often taught that the medieval church was the enemy of science and especially the enemy of the occult. But of course, actual history is always much more complicated, and that's no more clearly on display than in the works of Albertus Magnus, Albert the Great. Of course, his theological writings do toe a relatively consistently conservative line when it comes to the topic of sorcery, echoing basically the sentiments of the Church Fathers, people like Augustine. However, when we take a look at a collection like this one, which you can look down and see this incredibly beautiful text, this is a collection of philosophical and scientific works of Albert. A very different picture emerges. This edition, a collection of tracts printed around 1517, represents not only some of Albert's more occult works and his reflections, but also one of my favorite periods in the history of printing, the post-incunable period. While this 19th century binding isn't all that worth writing home about, to be honest, the contents, however, reveal a work at the very cusp of the Middle Ages, becoming early modernity, both in printing and in magic. The printed work itself continues to emulate the scribal traditions while just starting to break free of them. And at the same time, the work contains Albert's books on minerals, important in the history of alchemy and talismanic production, along with his physics and his metaphysics, and the realm of the superlunar world, the ethereal, quintessential realm up there above the moon. And his tract on the soul, which is absolutely fascinating, is where he actually confesses to have verified a point in metaphysics using his own magical practice. Thus, while Albert was writing through the 13th century, this edition of the 15 teens or so represents one of his earliest collections of his natural and supernatural works, as the printer Mark Antonio Zimara has it. And Albert's combination of magic, science, philosophy, and religion should remind us that people and religious institutions have always been much more complicated and rich, and how lucky we are to have inherited such wealth of wisdom from volumes like this, nearly 510 years old.